Okay, welcome everyone. I believe everyone can hear me. All right, welcome everyone. Today, yeah, you're welcome. Today we continue our uh, facilitation on CRD 305, rural development. And last week we talked about the principles of rural development and as well as talked about the objectives of rural development. Today, we are going to be talking about the approaches to rural development and the necessity for rural development in Nigeria. Now, the expectation is that at the end of today's session, every student should be able to identify and discuss different approaches to rural development. Every student should be able to identify the problems of rural areas in Nigeria, as well as discuss the necessity for rural development in Nigeria. Because when you see the problems that rural areas experience, you will now understand why it is necessary that rural development uh, is carried out in Nigeria. Okay, before I open the floor for everyone to start talking, let me just raise some very important points concerning today's session. Now, in order for us to effectively understand what makes a rural area developed and the approaches to rural development, it is also important that we understand the order of effective development of rural areas. We understand how rural areas can be developed, the different ways of going about it, uh, and how to adopt effective development in rural areas. So rural development is being viewed from different angles as it concerns uh, its effectiveness. So this is what is referred to as the approaches to rural development, because a lot of people view rural development from different angles, and that essentially tells you that for rural development to be effective, these entire angles where people view rural development as being should be observably seen as happening. For example, someone says that rural development is the improvement of the socio-economic aspects of a society. Those that perceive rural development from that angle must see the socio-economic development happening before they say, oh, rural development is happening. The same thing when someone says rural development is the changing of the mind of the people in a particular area towards certain things. If the people's mind have not been changed, that perspective of someone saying that rural development encompasses change of mind will not be accepted as that particular area is being developed. So this is perhaps because different problems require different solutions and modalities of providing solutions. So today, we'll be talking about the various approaches to rural development. Let's see how we achieve that. Now, we have three approaches to rural development, basically three approaches to rural development, according to Filani, all right? And these three approaches are the reformist approach, the structural approach, and the technological approach. Now, what do they really mean when we say reformist approach to rural development? In this approach to rural development, emphasis is given to behavioral change. That is the change of the behavior of the rural farmer, the rural dwellers. That is what we really mean. You approach rural development by changing behavior of the people in that area. So in addition, efforts are made to find ways and means by which the farmer or the rural dweller can play an important part in rural development programs and projects through improving in their attitude towards such programs. Now, the reformist approach to rural development therefore emphasizes the participatory involvement of these rural dwellers, these farmers, those in the rural area, in the reforming of the rural area. The farmers are thus sensitized, they are trained, they are mobilized and engendered in specific ways to get them to be actively involved in such developmental process. I'll give you an example. A friend of mine was into construction and was posted to a rural area at a particular time to construct. I think it was a bridge or a road. I'm not really very sure at this point. So he deployed his um, equipment to carry out that road construction. But at a particular stage of the project, the community in which that project was being constructed, whether road was being constructed or bridge was being constructed, the community members, youths in that community, they came to his project site and started stealing his equipment. And when they were confronted, they said they need to settle them. You need to settle them, that you need to give them some money so that they can leave you alone to do a project for them. So my friend reported to the people that mobilized him to carry out the project. They were not giving any thought, any good reply. So he left the project site and went away. Of course, the first question you will be asking, having heard my report, is the project is for a particular community and the community is supposed to benefit from that project. Yet it is the community members that are attacking the project budget and trying to jeopardize that project that will benefit them. Now you understand why it is important that some people look at the approach to rural development from the reformist approach. The reformist approach sees or emphasizes that the behavior of the rural farmer should change. And the reformist approach tends to emphasize the participatory involvement of the farmer or the rural dwellers in the reform of the rural area. Meaning that they say if the rural dwellers don't have a changed attitude towards their development, development will not occur in their environment. So now you understand what it means. The reformist is saying it is behavioral change we are going to go for. If we want to get rural development to happen, the people must change the way they think. They must change the way they are involved in the project. Rather than being a spanner in the wheels of progress, they should be part of the progress. They should participate in it. They should understand how it works. They should encourage projects that bring about rural development. Now, the second approach to rural development is the technological approach. This approach emphasizes technological transformation of different aspects of the rural society, particularly agricultural production. Of course, if the farmers that are agrarian, if the rural dwellers that dwell in the rural areas that are agrarian have their agricultural production improved technologically, it will change their it will change the outcome they have, the output they produce, and of course, it will transform how rural areas are. They'll be improved. So this could mean a shift from the use of local equipment, local methods of farming implements, local farming implements, to use of semi-modern technology. And the technological approach to rural development is emphasized by agricultural extension because they are the ones that teach these new ways of using this new technology and help to instill in the people the need, the drive, they help them to see the importance of this new way of farming. Now, the technology required for rural transformation include, among others, improved agricultural or farming practice, improved seedlings, improved storage systems as the facilities for storage, improves insecticide, herbicides, pesticides, and even fertilizer application technologies. So this is the technological approach. Then the third approach is the structural approach. The structural approach to rural development seeks to transform the existing economic, first, social, second, political relationships in such a way that those who were previously disadvantaged find their positions changed. Now, the social, political, and economic relationships that need to be changed include the relationship between the landlord and tenant, that is maybe the farmer and the landowner, between the landlord and tenant in terms of commerce, between the poor peasant farmers and land and money lenders that give them money, between the farmers and the traditional rulers, between the poor peasant farmers and middlemen that transact business with them. Probably the middlemen that help them bring maybe the insecticide, the herbicides from the cities to the village environment. The structural transformation of rural communities is attained through what is known as agrarian reform, that's agricultural reform, most of which are concerned with land distribution. Of course, I was discussing with someone recently, just a day or two ago, concerning land tenure system. Land tenure system in Nigeria simply means the land ownership. And land ownership means that how do we own land such that we can improve agriculture? To improve agriculture and the availability of land for agriculture, the government needs a kind of land tenure system where a large expanse of land can be given to farmers with ease. But that challenge is there in the south, especially east, southeast, south area, southwest, because the ownership of land is fragmented. Of course, if a man has 4 sons and he owns a very large portion of land, once he is about to pass, he will divide that land among his 4 sons, means they fragment the land into 4. Now, you want to farm and you need a very large portion of land, sections. You have to negotiate with landowners, meaning you have to start negotiating with 4 of them with addition of other people that owns lands to make up the section you need for your farm. And then the negotiation becomes too much. So what I will say, improvement in land tenure system, the agricultural reform, is one of the structural approach to rural development. That way, if we can improve the land tenure system in such a way that the government can take a large portion of land from people that own it without necessarily disenfranchising them or taking away ownership from them, but take it from them and give to the person that want to farm. And then royalties are paid back to the owners. That way, the agricultural reform will happen. The structural changes will happen. That is economically. And then, of course, the social reform will also happen to bring about the structural approach we are talking about. Okay, now, it should be noted that none of these 3 approaches is adequate in rural development when considered on its own. So individually, let's say structural reform can do the trick for us in rural development. No. Babu, no. Technological reform, no. We're saying that the 3 of them stand alone can't really bring about rural development in themselves. A meaningful rural development program must therefore consider the 3 approaches as one package of program. In other words, a meaningful rural development program should recognize and put the 3 approach to use, and then you'll have a comprehensive rural development approach being implemented. Now, let's talk about the problems of rural areas. The problems of rural areas. Now, let me say this while we are still at it. If you have a question, of course, I don't know, some of you have been in my class before, you can put up your electronic hand. I will give you the opportunity to ask your question, all right? Because here we interact a lot. Last week, we had a very healthy interaction among ourselves, and I'm expecting to have that interaction again today. Some of us have started approaching our discussion forum questions and attempting them, which I have moderated to some extent, but I've not really answered everybody's question there. But don't worry, today, once you have a question, put up your electronic hand. I'll give you the opportunity to speak. But while you are still thinking about that, let me continue explaining some key concepts before I open the floor generally for us to talk. Now, what are the problems of rural areas in Nigeria? Look at what you have on your screen. You see that rural areas in Nigeria are compared to urban areas in Nigeria, and they have peculiar problems that differentiate them from the urban people and affects the life of the inhabitants in the rural area. Some of the prominent problems, as explained by Adachaba in 1985, are 1, vicious circle of poverty. Number 2, poor rural infrastructure. Number 3, high population density. Number 4, high level of illiteracy. Number 5, low social interaction and local politics. Number 6, we have harmful traditional practices. Number 7, lack of employment opportunities. If you know these 7, you are good to go. But how can you explain them? Let me help you. Let me help you so you can be able to explain them. The first one is vicious cycle of poverty. What does it really mean? The rural dwellers experience vicious cycle of poverty. They have low savings, resulting to low investment. You see how it moves? First of all, they have low savings because they have very low income, right? And that low saving results in low investment because when you have low savings, you have very little amount left by the side to invest. And because you have low investment, of course, low capital formation because at that point you can't even keep any money aside. You don't even have money, passive income, let alone active income. This in turn brings upon the rural dwellers the fact that they will have low income always. Now, rural development programs and policy need to address this low investment, low savings, low capital formation, low income of the rural dweller. Because this creates a vicious circle of poverty. And by extension, I can push the vicious circle by one step. If a man experiences low this, he has a low savings, which results in low investment because he has low investment, he now has low capital formation, and then ultimately low income, and that imposes upon him poverty. And then he has children. The children grow up in the same environment, start experiencing the same thing. Can't you see that there's a vicious cycle of poverty from one generation to another? So rural development program, experts, and policies should address the vicious cycle of poverty in rural areas. Another problem is poor infrastructure, poor rural infrastructure. Rural areas are characterized by being grossly having lack of basic infrastructure, lack of basic infrastructure. When we say lack of basic infrastructure, what do we mean by that? The rural areas grossly lack basic infrastructure that gives life meaning and make it worthwhile. What kind of infrastructure are we talking that they lack? Things like no electricity, no pipe-borne water, no good road networks, very limited health facilities, and of course, maybe no recreational centers at that. So once they lack this is one of the problems of rural areas for rural infrastructure. The next is high population density. If a large number of Nigerian populace live in rural areas, their population continues to multiply uncontrollably. This makes it difficult for rural dwellers to adequately cater for their children and adequately take care of their socioeconomic needs. This is a problem. Population density, high population density. Then we have high level of illiteracy. What do we really mean by this? High level of illiteracy. Illiteracy is high in the rural area. This could be because they lack good schools or facilities, facility of learning. Illiteracy means one doesn't have ability to read and write, all right? So when you have high level of illiteracy, it means that either the facility to help them learn is absent or is poor. So that's one of the problems of rural areas. Even with the available few schools, parents are poor to send their children to such schools. Some are illiterate and find it difficult to give appropriate educational support to their children's education. This is a big problem, as no uneducated society or community can progress meaningfully without education, right? Once you're uneducated, progress is really far from you. Another problem is low social interaction and local politics. Local politics can be an issue, right? Now, in some areas, rural dwellers live in isolation. And this, in turn, results in no social interaction. Therefore, understanding and living with one, that is living that together, living together with others, understanding that low social interaction is not really good, then understanding the implication and trying to create a situation where people live in harmony, living and creating social interaction is kind of a solution. Now, without social interaction, there is usually no group action. Without group actions, leaders and powerful individuals will continue to dominate the rural dwellers without any united effort on their part to fight back. So one of the challenge of rural areas is this limited social interaction that makes the people really poor, because they really interact. They can easily activate what is required, what is called group action. They form groups and they can take action as a group. Another challenge or problem of rural area is harmful traditional practices. Rural dwellers engage in primitive and ancient traditional practices that are anti-developmental. Such practices affect the development of their socio-economic and socio-cultural lifestyles. Rural development programs need to refine and reshape such practices that have hindrances to development. In your community, think about it now, because I'll be asking you this question. Think of some harmful traditional practices that are anti-social, anti-development. All right, think about it. Think about it. Like, for example, in some communities, they forbid you from, maybe when they are carrying out some certain festivals, the market will not open. They don't welcome outsiders. In fact, they even bring harm to outsiders, that is strangers that come into that area. And because such communities on the way, that is a transit community, they always have outsiders and visitors visiting them. And when they start that festival, they bring harm to outsiders, and that causes outsiders or strangers or visitors to avoid such community. Such harmful practices that brings harm to visitors should be avoided. So one of the problems of rural areas is harmful traditional practices. Now, another one is lack of employment opportunities. Once the place is rural, it means that the human development capital there will not be appreciated or paid properly for. For example, a teacher in a rural area may just be paid maybe 5,000 for a extramural class, or paid maybe monthly 30,000 naira. But the same teacher in an urban area is paid 150,000 and 200,000. The same skill, the same skill set, the same educational level. So you see, in the rural area, there's a low rate of paying for labor, and that in turn causes those that have the skill in the rural area to move to the urban area. And of course, you know what that means. It means all the able-bodied men and women who possess natural skills, educational skills, are not gainfully employed there, because no infrastructure, no economic activity to even employ them in the first place. So perhaps this accounts for why there's a high rate of rural-urban migration and poverty among the able-bodied men and women in the recent times, who try to seek for greener pastures in the cities. Another problem is rural-urban migration. Rural dwellers migrate from rural areas to urban centers in search of jobs, and also to enjoy facilities available in urban areas, thereby creating rural labor scarcity. Both farm and farm output are adversely affected by this. Okay, now let's talk about the necessity for rural development in Nigeria. Of course, you can by now, having seen some of the problems of rural areas and the approaches to rural areas, you can guess why rural development is necessary in Nigeria. But let's go through it, the necessity. Now, authors have come to an agreement that there is a number of reasons why rural development is usually considered to be of overly or overall national importance. These include: one, rural people constitute the vast majority of Nigerian population. So to develop them is quite important, because some people say, do we have more rural areas than urban areas? Of course, we have more. Then the key questions that most students tend to struggle with is those in the rural areas and those in the urban areas, the population of urban and rural areas, which one is more? Most people just rush and say, okay, because there are more people in urban areas, like the capital cities of every community or every state, that the urban area population is more. Well, correct if you identify individual urban areas. All right, if you identify individual urban areas. But when you put all the rural areas together, you find out that those living in rural areas are more than those living in urban areas. Your state capital is just one. It could be urban. Then about 2 or 3 more communities in your state may be urban. The rest is rural, and people live in all these rural communities. So the rural people constitute the vast majority of the Nigerian population. So this makes them, or makes it, this is so desperate. This is so because despite the migration of people from rural to urban area, more people are in the rural area. So it's important. It's absolutely necessary for rural development in Nigeria because we have more people in the rural areas than in the urban areas. Another reason, most of the food which Nigerians eat is produced by rural dwellers. So it's important that rural development occur. Another reason why we develop the rural area is much of the country's agricultural needs for raw materials and subsequent industrial and economic growth are produced in the rural area. The fourth reason why rural development is necessary is that 2 of the 5 national objectives as stated in the National Policy on Education are the building of one, a just and egalitarian society, and the second is a united, strong, and self-reliant nation. This is important. To achieve this, it's necessary that rural development happens. Then number 5, inequality exists in social and educational amenities between rural and urban areas. Go to the urban areas, you will see so many hospitals, so many social centers, things that encourage social interaction, so many schools, higher institutions, secondary schools, primary schools, and so on, co-educational schools, different kind of educational facilities. But go to the rural areas, it may just be just one primary school owned by government, private, almost absent. So you see, there's a lot of inequalities in social and educational amenities. Because of that, it is necessary that rural development happens. The number 6 reason why it is necessary for rural development in Nigeria is the inequalities that exist in the living standard among the rural dwellers. And then lastly, most rural dwellers live below the poverty level, which calls for urgent attention to improve their lot. Okay, when we think about this entire listing, these 7 necessities why rural development is important in Nigeria, if we must achieve any kind of development, we must consider the 7. So if we must achieve a self-reliant economy, that is, for example, we must become an egalitarian society. That's egalitarianism, and we achieve full employment for all. It is important to examine what prevails in the rural areas where a majority of our countrymen reside. It is important to find out what sort of activities the rural dwellers engage in and identifying what factors impede the development of their areas. Very, very important. So in summary today, we've discussed the approaches to rural development and pointed out that no one single approach will suffice. So we advise that the combination of all the 3 approaches we listed today is more ideal. In the next unit, we'll be talking about planning, implementation, and appraisal of rural development projects in our next facilitation class. So today, I will now conclude by opening the floor so that most of us can now discuss any aspect of this today's topic that you may not really understand. So let's start with questions from you. Do you have any question on today's topic? Anybody with a question? Please put up your hand and or unmute yourself and ask the question. Put up your hand and I'll allow you to unmute yourself. And then you. All right, I can't hear you. Who is speaking? Yeah. Daniel. Yeah. All right, speak up. You're not audible. Hello, Daniel. I can't hear you, Daniel. All right, Blessing, can you speak? Let me see if I can hear you. Probably it's from my side.
Hello, sir. Hello?
Okay, Blessing, you are louder. Daniel, I can't hear you. It's from your side.
Okay, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good evening, sir.
All right.
Sorry, sir. I want to ask a question.
Please do.
This reformist approach.
Okay.
You said it is all about people's behavior. Is it because of the settings of where they are dwelling, or naturally that's how they want to behave?
Of course, you see, one of the characteristics we raised when we discussed the characteristics of the rural area is that they lack certain levels of education. So when the reformists say they want to change the behavioral attitude of the rural dweller, is to bring about an improved manner in which the rural areas accept rural development. Now, you will agree with me that in most of our rural environment, they see anything like projects from government, maybe if you are from the south here, you see things like projects from government as a means of partaking in the national cake. You see that? So anytime a project comes, they don't even check if it's actually from the government or privately sponsored. They want to exploit whoever is bringing it, forgetting that that project could be more beneficiary to them than them trying to get personal gain. Like I give you an example. A friend of mine tried to construct a road that will link a community to another community, open the community to commerce and improvement of their socioeconomic life. These people went and seized this equipment. They seized this equipment. What were they trying to achieve? They want to gain some money. It should give them some thousands of naira. They will collect that money, but they forget that they are farmers. If that road is created, people will come into that community and buy their product, and they don't depend on anybody again to make money. Just do your farming and you make progress. But you can collect that 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 25,000, 100,000, 200,000 from the project manager, and he stops the project, he gives you the money, and then your people are in abject poverty. So you see the mindset. Apart from just the exploitation of the project executor, the project manager, the rural dwellers tend to vandalize government facilities. They provide a generating set for a local health center, and the rural dwellers went there and stole the generator. They need to have a change. There's a particular community here where they form themselves as a vigilante to protect government property, a government health facility, to protect it because people among them were vandalizing the project. This health facility was where the women give birth, and they had very cheap health services from that health facility. Yet, the rural people, the same people from the community, will go there, harass the nurses, the health workers, try to steal their gen, cut their wires, jeopardize the program that was helping them. Don't you think they need a change of their mindset? I don't know if I'm communicating, bless you.
Yes, sir.
So
You are, sir.
the reformists are saying that if you can change the mindset of the people, it's one approach to rural development. Because once the mindset is changed, anything you introduce to them will bring about a concrete rural development, because they themselves will make themselves, for example, the vigilantes, to protect that rural development project or adventure or whatever it is in their environment. So that was the reformist is saying. All right. Any other question? Have I answered your question correctly?
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any other question, please?
Yes, I have a question. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
My name is One is door.
Okay. Ask your question, please.
Hello, sir.
I can hear you. Ask your question.
Okay, sir. So my question is, what program does government have for the rural development or the rural people in order to educate them on this problem challenging the rural people? For this, most of the time when project is coming to the rural development, to the rural people, the people will receive the program, and you see government may not put more effort to make sure that that project prevail. They may leave it. At the end of the day, it's the community that will still suffer it. But government owns the land and owns everybody. But in terms of this rural development, when the community resists the government project, the government will not put effort to make sure that that project that is meant for developing that place is achieved. And another question is some cultural behavior that is affecting rural development.
Okay.
Most times, when you see a community having
Mm.
one festival or the other, they will
Mm-hmm.
just block a major highway that
Mm-hmm.
connects state to state. But you see
Mm-hmm.
some government officials, they will be passing, even on that very occasion, they will just make a way for
Mm.
themselves and pass, and the road will block for more than 6 to 4 hours. And government is not doing anything about it. But we have 3 tiers of
Mm.
government: federal, state, and local government that should take care of the grassroots, which is the rural people. But at the end of the day,
Mm.
they are not doing anything. So what's the way forward? And how can the rural area be developed?
Okay.
Thank you.
Um, Thank you, Musa Chukwu. I appreciate your perspective, and I think this is a very practical question to help us existentially put life into what we have just said. All the things we've said look as if it's theoretical, theoretical, theoretical. Now let's talk about practical approaches to solving this thing, of going about it. Now, I don't know if anybody has something to say in terms of helping Uzochukwu answer some of these questions. One of his questions is how can we, or as government, how can government try to mitigate some of these problems that rural areas have, especially like harmful traditional practices, where we do things that hurt ourselves, yet government is saying nothing to help us to solve the problem that that we are having. Now, I don't know if anybody can help us here. How can government help in this situation? Let's start with the harmful traditional practices. Can anybody help us if you understand this topic and these challenges that we're talking about that rural areas have? Okay, Daniel, can you say something, please? I hope your volume is higher now.
Yeah, good evening, Doctor. Good evening, sir.
Okay, I can hear you now. Daniel, you can speak.
Okay. Firstly, good evening, everyone. So, first of all, I would like to ask, like, is the government even aware of this, tradition stuff? And if they are aware, that means then we can start asking how the government can solve it. But if they are not aware of what is going on in the community, I think there is no way they can help because the government are not aware. So now, if the government is aware of it, and I think first the same community, they will take the initiative of informing the government of their problem, and maybe submitting a petition. Then we can know how government can step into the current situation. So
Okay.
that's my opinion.
All right. Thank you, Daniel. He's talking about government being aware. Now, can I say something? For some of us, we tend to separate ourselves from government. While we were growing up, some of us are older in this class, while some of us are not that old. However, Okay, before I say what I want to say, I think, is it Jumoke? Jumoke is raising up her hand. Okay, sorry, I didn't see.
Sir.
Okay, good.
Yes, sir.
You
Good
can
evening,
speak,
sir. I
please.
wanted to contribute. All right, sir. Good evening, sir. I wanted
Good
to
evening.
contribute about what the government can do about it.
Okay.
Like in the western parts here in Nigeria,
Okay.
in the southwest, there is a day that already declared as a festive period. They call it Isheshe Day. So when like in some local governments, when they're having their activities, so they always make sure that they inform everybody in that community that there is going to be a festival going on. Then there's going to be another route which people can pass so that it won't
Alternative
affect
routes.
their business.
Okay.
Alternative road that people can pass, or people that are going to the market for either their social activities. So that is in the southwest area here.
Okay.
I think that's one of the
A kind of solution.
another way. I think that's another way.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jumoke. Can we hear from Rahama? Rahama, can we hear you? I can see your hand is up.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Well, to me, I think one of the major way for government to help this rural issue is involving the community leaders, like involving the traditional leaders before the commencement of any particular project. So they could be able to like make awareness or create any major like something that will help before, especially to those people that load government projects, like that takes government project like thief stuff for them to like thinking that it's theirs. So I think to me, involving the community or traditional rulers into projects will help solve some issues probably.
Okay. Now, before I give you the opportunity, I think it's Esther. Okay, Esther, speak. You may speak, Esther.
Okay, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
My own contribution is what the government can do to help the rural area. Government actually can, if there's a way to educate those people, I think they will know more on how to manage their traditional stuff so that it will not affect the masses. And it will also change their ways of thinking. So one thing the government can do is to bring education into the community. I think that will help a lot.
You know, someone says something that I know about. It says once education happens, the mind is never the same. Once one is educated, his mind expands. And such expansion cannot contract anymore because education has happened. Or learning has happened. Learning has happened. So before I say my own approach to this, is it Uzochukwu? Okay, sorry, Blessing. Blessing, your hand is up. I hope I've given you opportunity to speak already. Okay, let's hear Emmanuel. Emmanuel, can we hear you? Put up, you can unmute yourself. Can't hear Emmanuel. Okay, Blessing, you can speak. Good job for Blessing.
So my contribution to this harmful traditional practices is that we need someone to and like tell them what those things can be of use to them. You know, every culture has their traditions and their
Okay, we can't hear Blessing very well, but
And sometimes their mentality, my own contribution is before government such kind of community, I think the government has like have a heart-to-heart talk with them. Things needs to be brought to their community. It is the leaders that will in line now tell them, oh, we want this or we don't want
Okay.
this. But if they really want it, after having a heart-to-heart, the elders of the community, it is the elders of the community that can now pass the message to their host community, because you cannot just go to them and tell them what to do. They won't listen to you. But when the elders go to them or communicate to them in the language they will understand, I think they will also try to embed change in their host community.
Okay, there's something I want to raise. You know, most times we say the leaders, the government, the government. One thing that I'm sure of is that every single member of a community is part of the government of that community. Because to be part of the government simply means that you are either a leader or you are a follower. Because it is from the followers the leaders are selected. So, and the followers give the leaders support. Now, if we have rural areas, and we said some of the problems of the rural areas is, let me bring out the harmful traditional practices. And some of those harmful traditional practices inhibit some progressive economic and socio-economic activities. As followers, we make report like one of us has suggested. You talk to your leaders, tell them the adverse effect of this act, provide alternative route for outsiders, limit damages that they bring to visitors. Because one of the things that kill commerce is that visitors are harmed. Once the story goes out that anybody that does business in this community on so and so day, we have a problem. Most people that don't even understand the dimensions that the festival is only once a year, we think the festival happens all the time and they will avoid that place. One of the few things that I think is a solution is education. Education is so important that even if it is vicious circle of poverty, poor infrastructure, population density, illiteracy, social interaction, harmful traditional practices, unemployment, education tends to solve some of these problems defaultly. Because once you are educated, you realize that with your education itself is not end to poverty, but it gives you understanding of how to improve your socioeconomic means. You see that? Now, the same thing, once you get educated, like I was telling students over the week, I think this week or last week, I think, that if not for education and modernization, some of us Africans will still be killing twins, because the thought and mindset in the past was that the twins were evil and they threw them into the Uru forest. But introduction of the education and improvement in our mindset allowed us to keep the twins, and we realized that twins are blessings. So some harmful traditional practices in themselves can even be jettisoned and done away with. You see, we should be careful about the traditional practices that we keep permanently. Some practices have more harm than good, while some practices are totally good. All right? They are good because some of those practices help to improve social interaction. That is this number 5 problem of rural areas. With those practices, people come back and they interact. And if they keep interacting, they tend to form what we call group action. And if you have group action, you can counter local politics, which is dominated by a few persons. Are you getting it? So if you have higher social interaction, you can now form groups to say, okay, the festival we hold, but we'll go around on the day of the festival to ensure that the young ones don't hit outsiders, don't harm anybody that is visiting, because the visitors are not supposed to be harmed or supposed to be involved in this way or this other way. So it can be counteracted by group actions. Now, that is good in itself. But I have a question. You see, some problems of the rural areas cannot always be mitigated. It's just natural that the rural area will have those problems because of their position as being rural. For example, this when we say rural-urban migration, we highlighted as being a fallout of rural rural areas issues, this rural urban migration. You can't say you will solve the rural urban migration. Once the place is rural, people will tend to move from the rural areas to the urban areas because they are seeking greener pasture. Like, for example, you notice that a lot of highly skilled personnel in Nigeria these days are moving out of the country since, I think, 2023 or so. There's this surge of people leaving the country. I think it's from 2021 or thereabouts. It has been happening. People leaving Nigeria to outside the country. They call it Japa syndrome. Why? They're looking for greener pastures. It will always happen. Now, after a while, Nigeria will improve and everybody will stay back. And then after a long period of time again, the economy will go bad or become less lucrative and people will move again. It comes like in cycles. The same thing happens to rural areas and urban areas. Like some urban areas these days were formerly rural areas. So while they were urban, people were moving rural, people were moving from them to urban areas. So rural development started happening and they became semi-urban and eventually became urban. So people now start staying back. Like some people's communities now, they are urban. If you are from Onitsha, Onitsha is urban. There was a time Onitsha wasn't urban. If you are somewhere, if you are from maybe Ibadan City, there was a time it was rural, now it is urban. If you are from Kano, I don't know whether Kano was ever rural, but there must be a time it was rural. And now it is urban. So some of these problems will exist, whether we like them or not. That we have, once you are in a rural area, you will experience this. All right, that's about it today. I want us to note that I will be discussing or moderating some of your comments at the discussion forum section. I have seen that some of you are not really following the rules. In that discussion forum, some people are there generating answers from AI and putting there. If you generate AI questions, you can't use AI to write the exams. The essence is for you to memorize some of the solutions, participate in the live session like we have here, watch the instructional videos. All right. So if you are using AI to generate, how will you be able to answer the question on the day of the exam? Remember, on the day of the exam, you will be asked to answer questions pen on paper. And when you're asked to answer questions on pen on paper, will the AI be what you use to generate the answers? How will you now remember the answers? So I don't know why we are doing that. It's not going to help us. You're choosing a simple path, but that simple path will solve your problem. All right. So try to read the course material and attempt those discussion forum questions. They are not hard. Like today's discussion forum for this week. If you go now, I'm going to open week 2 and week 3. I will open them today so that you can attempt the discussion forum immediately. And once you do that, if you are part of this class, you don't even need to read any other thing. You can answer those questions almost immediately. All right. Some of you are participating via the YouTube channel. So it's important to click the YouTube subscribe link there. Just like we are interacting here now on the Zoom page, and I'm answering your questions as you're chatting with me and while we're having this live session. At the Zoom, the YouTube section, I will switch to that place and answer your questions soon. So you can drop your questions under the comment section and I'll answer your questions as well. Try and share the link so that those that have not seen it will join. Some people are having difficulties joining because the official mailing quick mail we use in sending mail on the platform is not going. So you need to call your classmates, send this link to them, share that YouTube pages and the videos, share it among your friends so that they can join this class. The invite link, the WhatsApp group, join. There we can answer your questions and attend to a lot of the challenges you may be having. All right. I don't know if there are other questions we can take before I turn off for today. Any other question?
Hello. Hello.
Okay. All right.
Hello, sir.
Yes, I can hear you. Yes,
sorry, sir. Do you have WhatsApp group for this course?
Yes, there is. Go to the chat box now and see the link for the WhatsApp.
I said, do we have WhatsApp group for this course?
Yes, we do. We do. If you go to the chat now, you will see the WhatsApp link there. Click on it and join the group. I believe I'm speaking with Leslie. Yes, I posted the link on the chat
Yes, sir,
group
but
here.
it's not showing now.
This Zoom, just go to the chat, you will see it. Check your phone.
It's not showing.
Or you send your email, your phone number, post it here now. Type and post it here. The link will be sent to you.
The link is there. I just joined. The link is there.
So blessing.
Seeing it from you.
All right. Now, if there's no question, I will call it a day.
Okay, please, Esther Jerome.
Okay, Esther, can I say?
Yes, I want to confirm. Is the course material a total of 90 pages?
Now, what you see on the portal is a fragmentation of, we fragmented the course material. I don't know the total number of pages, but each week you see the course material has been broken, and what you need to read for the week is on that particular week, is attached. So each week, just go to the instructional material there, you will see the course material for that week. So if you follow it to the end of the 8th week, you will see the complete material for the whole course. So another thing you can do now, which I could even do for you, when you join the WhatsApp group, you can ask the question. I drop the entire course material for you there so that you can have the whole thing together. All right?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So, Blessing, have you clicked the link? All right. Thank you very much for joining. Look forward to seeing you guys in my next class. Bye-bye.